Hi, all. Kinsey Schofield here. Today, we're welcoming back journalist and former Sun royal correspondent Charles Rae. I know the audience loves you, so thank you so much for coming back to me. I had a completely different show in mind, but classic Harry and Meghan, uh, breaking news. So I apologize for disrupting what was going to be a pleasant conversation with classic Sussex chat. But Prince Harry and Meghan have left or exited a number of roles and projects, stepping down from royalty, ending a major podcast deal, canceling media projects, and really seeing mass turnover in general when it comes to their operations, all often before achieving the long term impact first announced, whether it was a leak or a press release. They always seem to have these big expectations. Do you agree with me, Charles, that we hear from them a lot? But when it comes to execution, they often disappoint.
They do often disappoint, and it's a big disappointment that they've decided to do this, uh, because it's one of the few things that this problem about online security for young children. And they set this thing up, to try to protect children, especially those who commit suicide after being trolled and everything else. And I was full of, credit for them for doing that, because it was, out of the many things that they've both done, this was, for me, was a worthwhile cause. Now, I don't know what's really behind why they've suddenly handed over Parents Network to Parents Together, which is another organization which I gather is based in Washington. And they seem to have also handed over a grant, which I assume includes some of the donations that Parents Together received for the work that they were doing, because they've been very big on, this protection for children, which I agree with. I just wish your country and my country could follow maybe the Australian model and, clamp down on social media for teenagers under the age of 16.
But doesn't
I
this
think
leave an opportunity for Catherine and William to have a heavier presence there? Because did you read the piece about Queen Catherine in the Times where they talked about how Catherine wanted to keep children away? It's all about the early years and how she wants to keep her
for
children
sure.
off of cell phones. And we've also heard Prince William say he's keeping his children off of cell phones and social media. So it almost opens the door for Prince William and Princess Catherine to dominate in the space,
I,
which
I,
they
I
clearly are passionate about.
I think that door, yes, they are passionate about it, but that door is already open because they're doing that sort of job, if you like, through their own charities and own visits. So they keep on mentioning as well, about keeping their own children off it and trying to protect children. I mean, it's all part of the thing that they do. I don't think they need to set up, a UK branch of
Yeah,
Parents
no, no.
Together or Parents whatever network. I mean, because I think they're doing the job in any case, and it's quite right. It doesn't conflict with what Harry and Meghan were doing, and theirs doesn't conflict with what William and Catherine are doing. So I don't think they need to set up a separate organization. I think they're doing the job in any case. But going back to, as I understand it, this was set up in something like 2024 by Harry and Meghan. And then in October this year, they handed over or they had a cooperation with the other organization. And now suddenly we find that they've handed it over the whole shebang to this other organization with no mention at all of their involvement in it. Now, it may well be that in a month or so or a few weeks or whatever, we may find that they're sitting on the board or they're the patrons or whatever, but it's a bit strange that they're just not involved in it at all. And as you quite rightly said in your opening intro, this seems to be another example of the things that they tend to do, mainly for Netflix, that seems to have maybe not disappeared, but quietened down quite a lot. There's not been the same fanfare about some of the projects that they've been involved in.
Fanfare. Meghan doesn't care. She's still going to announce. She's still going to show up to the parade. Meghan loves a spotlight. Hey friends, want to hear a secret? Creatone by Brickhouse Nutrition was developed by doctors specifically for women. It powers your body at the cellular level, supporting steady energy, sharp focus, and better overall output without the crash or burnout. Creatine is known for weightlifting performance, but its benefits go far beyond the gym. Research suggests it may help support brain function, reduce fatigue, improve mood, and help preserve muscle and bone as we age, even if you rarely lift a barbell. Creatone stacks seamlessly with most supplements, especially protein and magnesium, and was designed to complement, not compete, with your current routine. With daily use, energy feels more consistent, your body feels stronger and more balanced, and your shape looks visibly toned. Confidence grows right alongside your results. Try it and feel supported, energized, and strong from within. Let's get you started with 20% off your first order. Visit tonetoday.com and use my code Kinsey. You went over some of the details, but I'll quickly just regurgitate from the Daily Mail. The Parents Network has now effectively been transferred from the Archewell Foundation, now known as Archewell Philanthropies, because why don't we just continue to rebrand every aspect of our lives to Parents Together? Archewell is said to have given Parents Together the full operational capacity of the initiative, as well as cash grant to cover the first year of core operations. Is somebody whispering Sentebale in my ear? Like, to your point, this feels very awkward. This feels very strange. It's as if people weren't getting along and they thought we're going to wash our hands of this.
I agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. I mean, Sentebale was is a classic example because there was a row on the board, and the Harry, who was a trustee, and the other trustees couldn't get on with the lady who was the
Dr. Sophie
chairperson.
Shandaka, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I forgot her name. Who was the chairperson? So that's gone by the board, and that was a big impact on Harry because that was the one he set up in his mother's name, along with Prince Isuzu, isn't it? In Africa. So that was a big loss, big controversy, which is still not really been resolved
No.
at all. Although he's now walked away and he's never going to go back to it. This is smacks. Maybe this is the same sort of thing, or it may be. Let's be generous and gracious for a second. It may well be that Parents Network was beginning to be a big enterprise, and it was taking up a lot more time than they could devote to it. So, but except I suspect, no, no, no,
Jam making is so hard. Jam making
I'm,
is so
I'm,
hard. It's hard to remember to put the wick in your candle.
I might be completely wrong, but there were other people running it. It's what we don't know is what the bottom line is. What is the reason for this sudden transfer? And let's not forget, Parents Network worked on the West Coast, Parents Together what's on the East Coast. I know they're both supposed to be national charities and everything else, but it seems to me that they could both operate without causing problems to each other.
You're being so gracious here because when you talk about Sentebale being Harry's, really having Harry's heart,
Hmm.
we were told that this initiative was from Harry and Meghan's team, that this was
Sure,
their legacy project. So
sure.
I do think that that's one of the reasons why people kind of sit back and go, "Oh wow, that this doesn't make a lot of sense." A spokesperson for Archewell claims this is the norm, saying this follows our established model where we incubate initiatives before transitioning them to independent, substantial organizations, much like Invictus, Travalyst, and others, which I don't necessarily think is true because those initiatives were started under the British royal family umbrella, so that you cannot use them as an example of something that the Sussexes incubated and
No,
transitioned to anything.
and those two organizations you've specifically mentioned, they have still got links with both Harry and Meghan,
Mm.
whereas this this new swap over does it eradicates Harry and Meghan's names from everything so far. I mean, as I said to you earlier, it may well be that we'll find out in a week or so that they're actually on the board or they're going to be trustees or whatever it is, but none of this is quite clear yet. And as with your opening gambit, you're given the clear indication that this is yet another vanity project that they had, and it's suddenly gone out of the window. And they were very forceful in their comments. They made, didn't they gave a couple of interviews about how they felt about this cause, particularly for the young children, and even got parents on board to talk about it as well. Now, it just seems that they've let them down, to be perfectly honest.
That's very true. That's very true because, you know, to ask somebody to go revisit that trauma on national television, that's a big ask.
Yeah, yeah, completely.
I know I don't want to revisit the death of my child because of an online bully. So the fact that they found these individuals that were willing to open up and be so vulnerable, and to your point, it gave the Duke and Duchess of Sussex a nice shiny little platform.
Sure, sure.
It allowed them to look like experts. Um, so I'm curious to see what happens, but do you mind if we go down the list of some other Sussex initiatives that these two have quit or have lost? And I'd love to
Some,
get your reaction to them.
some of which I'd even forgotten about, to be
Yeah.
perfectly honest.
Well, I guess that my first question to you would be in the court of public opinion, do these two commit to anything?
Well, I think they commit to things for a short time and then they seem to move on, as we've seen with a great variety of things that they've got themselves involved in. Um,
Invictus is an example of something that they're clearly committed to.
oh, sure, sure. And this Travalyst, which no one really, I mean, isn't it uh, something that helps with travel in the
It's
economy?
the purpose of Travalyst is that you can utilize Travalyst in some way to minimize your,
Yeah.
your
Carbon,
environmental
carbon,
footprint.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Carbon food, yeah.
And
So
it's like, Harry, could you take this Zoom call off the private jet you're on while you're preaching to
I
us
know,
about minimum?
and that's the criticism again you have with these sort of things when you have all these people floating off to Brazil. I'm not saying I'm not blaming Harry for that one, but floating off to Brazil in their private jets and everything else, and talking about the climate change and whatever. It seems ridiculous. Whereas they could just use Zoom.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, no, no, no. They just seem to try and start up an awful lot of things. I think probably edged on by Netflix, who are desperately trying to get their money's worth, if you like, out of both. And I've got no objection to that. I mean, and I've said to you before, I don't have any problems with Harry and Meghan making their own money, but
Working. Yeah.
these are charity projects, and I wonder how some of the parents feel who donated cash and money to their charity, their network, their parents' network, how they feel about that money now being diverted over to the Parents Together. That would be interesting to find out if they were upset about it because they're clearly doing. They donated the money in memory of their children and whatever else, but also the fact that Harry and Meghan were the spearheads of it is also a big pull. Let's not forget about that. There's still a big pull in these projects. It's just they don't seem to, keep them going all that much. And I mean, they're a bit like our Labour government at the moment. They've now had their 13th U-turn on a number of projects and bills that they wanted to bring into effect, but they have all been, whipped all around. So they're under criticism. So it very much reminds me of what Harry and Meghan are doing.
Harry and Meghan, the perfect politicians. Yeah, I mean, I think what interested me about their reaction to the story, like, no, this is the norm. We incubate. Again, I would argue that I don't see Harry and Meghan as the creators, founders, inventors, creatives of a lot of the organizations they're associated with. If you look at their end of the year recap of what they typically do with Archewell, they seem to swoop into something that already exists, throw some money at it, show up and take some pictures, and then take credit for the good work that company has done aside from them
Mhm.
or beyond them. And I've been pointing that out for a very long time, that I really feel like they show up when something's already up and running, smile on the step and repeat, and then take credit for it. I don't really see them as instigators, inventors. I don't really see them as the creators of anything other than a company that sells loose fruit spread and flour sprinkles.
It seems to me that they seem to be desperate to find a cause that they can pump their hearts and souls into that can keep on going. I'm talking about charity. I'm not talking about the working part of it, where they get the money. But
But
you
do
know,
you have a hard time with Meghan telling us that the internet is bad while she uses social media specifically to promote her products and try to sell us her products?
I well,
That's a conundrum.
it is a conundrum, but I don't have any problem with it because you look at anybody who's in business and doing everything else, they're all using social media for the point being that it helps contact with other people, but it also helps promote your business and you promote sales, so forth. I mean, it's I don't have any problems with that. Where I have a problem with the internet is where it affects young children.
Mm.
Like supposedly Harry and
But
Meghan.
then, but she also is using her kids randomly to promote her products, back of their heads, back of when
Sure,
she's got
yeah.
a new product, it's the back of their heads.
Well, so that's a conflict again with where, they say that they're not letting the kids use the social media, which is, may well be right. I'm sure they are right that they're not letting the children use the social media, but they're certainly using them occasionally. We still really haven't seen a full frontal picture of facial picture of Archie or Lilibet. I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I think it was since they were babies, but we haven't seen anything else. Again, I've got no problem with parents protecting their children, and maybe they're using them in that fashion. It's still a bit of protection. I mean, William and Catherine, I'm sure, are doing exactly the same. They're not letting their three children use social media at all. And it's right that these children stay away from these terrible iPads and iPhones and Galaxies and everything else until they are of a proper age that they can understand how it works. They should remain children, not captors of the internet.
Yeah. Yeah. Playing outside, enjoying the sun, that
Hey,
vitamin D. Let's talk about some of the things that Meghan and Harry have quit since starting as working members of the British, or well, since quitting and starting as in quitting as members of the British royal family. Suits and The Tig. Now, Meghan was a regular character on the television show Suits, and she also had a blog called The Tig. Um, a lifestyle blog where she interviewed celebrities and posted recipes, and it's kind of similar to what she does with As Ever now. And the story that was fed to us was that she had to shut this down. She had to shut her social media down because she was becoming a working member of the British royal family.
sure.
I've also heard, and I would love to know if you've heard this as well, that the Queen did pull Meghan aside and say, if you'd like to continue acting, you're more than welcome to continue
Yep.
acting. And so I wonder how much Meghan really, I don't think she was happy with Suits. She'd been there for a significant amount of time. And I think that she didn't want to have to continue to play Rachel Zane. I don't remember what her name was, Rachel something. Um, but I also think that deleting the TIG, deleting her social media footprint, allowed her to reinvent herself completely as a royal. Do you
Oh,
believe that she really had to shut down all of that stuff, that was royal protocol? Or was this a strategy by Meghan?
I think she had to shut down the TIG because she would have come under the umbrella of Kensington Palace or Buckingham Palace or whatever, which puts out social media on behalf of a particular royal. So that would have been a
Wait, can I also I don't say this enough, but Meghan and Harry go out and complain about how the palace didn't protect them. Do you remember when the palace, for the first time ever, set social media rules and said
sure.
you cannot abuse Catherine and Meghan And it was such a rare, wild moment because all of a sudden the palace said, if you are engaging with us on our social media, you cannot harass members of the royal family this way. They haven't done anything like that since. But when
No.
Harry and Meghan talk about how they weren't protected, I think back to those announcements and where the royal family is like, well, actually, now we have rules online if you're going to engage with us.
Well, 2 points. You mentioned the Queen earlier on, and I've heard exactly the same thing, where the Queen had said, if you want to carry on, with your show business stuff and acting, you go ahead. It's entirely up to you. I'm sure that that could have been fitted in with any of the royal duties that would have been called. It could have been difficult, but they could have done it. And I've said to you before that Meghan entering the royal family got a bigger support, much, much bigger support than Diana and Fergie ever got. They were left to fend for themselves, those two girls, left to fend for themselves. And they were criticized, in effect, by what one of them described as the men in grey suits. Now, both Harry and William, put the mockers on that. They clamped it all down, and they made sure that they protected their wives at the start, as William and Harry are still doing at the moment. And it was quite right that they should do that. So that shows the difference as well. And Meghan, when she was certainly having difficulties and still has difficulties with her own family, who stepped in to walk her down the aisle? It was her
Charles.
father-in-law,
Yeah.
the king. Well, you can't get any better than that. So it all seemed to be all lovey-dovey, and the whole shooting match seemed to be great. Everything was going along. They were feted and loved by the British public, and everything else. It just amazed me when they decided that was it. We're going to rip it all up, and we're going to go and live in Canada because we got to live in Canada because we can't live in the States because Donald Trump's there. Oh, yeah, what happened there?
Yeah. A proper New Year reset isn't about extremes. It's about showing up as your best self every day. Beam is a company proudly founded in America, run by people who share our values, and they've built products that help you keep the promises you make to yourself, the promises that actually matter. Beam's best selling Dream Powder is a healthy nighttime blend packed with proven ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients like reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and melatonin. It's designed to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling amazing. No groggy hangover. The sea salt caramel flavor, absolute heaven, like indulgent hot cocoa without the guilt. Dream is made right here in America, no shortcuts. Founders guided by integrity and a strong work ethic. Beam has transformed over 28 million nights of sleep. So, if you've been waiting for the right time to try Dream, this is it. Go to shopbeam.com/Kinsey. Use code Kinsey for up to 40% off. That's just $39 with my code $1.25 per night. That's cheaper than a soda, ladies and gentlemen, these days. So shopbeam.com/Kinsey today. Shopbeam.com/Kinsey today. Well, that's the perfect transition or pivot to Harry and Meghan quitting the royal family, probably the ultimate example of their
Yeah.
capabilities of quitting. Some have argued, and I don't necessarily agree with this, that Meghan was just Harry's excuse. He always had one foot out the door. I look at him today. He seems rudderless. He seems homesick. He seems isolated. I talk to people that know Meghan, and they say Meghan admits he has trouble establishing new friendships here in the United States. So, do you believe that Harry was just looking for this out and Meghan was conveniently it? Or do you think that they were kind of like fire and gasoline on an open flame, and Meghan was fed up and Harry thought, well, I'll do whatever she says to make her happy. And she, she's been divorced, she's a runner.
There was no signs, as far as I can remember, of Harry wanting to leave the royal family. I mean, he was probably the most popular royal at that time when he was on his own. Yes, he had girlfriends and everything else, and he was still, whenever he turned up, people were there all the time. They wanted to see him. He was very funny, very humorous with people and everything else. Very happy. His eyes were great. His great smile and everything else. So you've got to ask yourself the question, what's gone wrong? What
Right.
went wrong with it all? And there can only be, one answer. Now, and it's got to, I'm afraid I'm to say this, but it's got to be Meghan. There has to have been something that happened, whether she said, I still believe that Meghan could not understand what the royal protocol was. When she found out that she and Harry were getting feted by the British public and wherever they went, they thought they were the superstars. They thought they were the number one. They thought they were even above the Queen and the then Prince of Wales and William and Catherine. They didn't realize that they were in a pecking order. And the pecking order says you don't do things to upset other things that other members of the royal family are doing on that particular day. That's all you have to do. Just keep your mouth shut. Don't do anything. Go for a walk. Go for anything else. And I think she believed that she really was the number one member of the royal family. And when she found out that she wasn't, because the Queen was, triple A,
Well,
and
also that wasn't currency. That wasn't
no, no,
currency.
no,
She
no.
couldn't, there was no negotiating when it came to the men in gray suits or the working royals. Like, I think
Oh,
she felt like her popularity was currency and she was going to try to negotiate, and the royal family was like, you're going to sit down.
I think there was a quote attributed to her that why was I not getting paid for some of these royal visits? Which, if that is a true quote, that's underlines just what she was really after.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know if it was true or not. I mean, it's what I've
Valentine Lowe reported it, and I really trust Valentine Lowe. So,
no, no,
yeah.
no, absolutely. And you've also got to always look at the people who are reporting this, because there are too many people out there who don't know anything and just spout their rubbish on the internet and social media.
Yes,
But
like
when
everybody's saying that King Charles is dying. That makes me so angry. I
yeah,
was with him at the end of October. He was happy, healthy, laughing. And it makes me so fed up when I see these people like Charles on his last leg, Harry's, dire visit. And I'm like, I could slap these people because I'm
but
really not supposed to be going around saying that I hung out with King Charles, but I will if I have to defend his health. Okay.
so my point is, depending on who it is who is saying this in a broadcast or who is writing about it, you can tell who are the real people who may know something, who do know something, who are speaking to the right people and who are being briefed correctly. And there are still a good few of those around, and that's the people I listen to more than anything else.
Well, what are you thinking about whispers that Harry could return to the UK with and we know Harry's going to return to the UK in July. He always does the year countdown preview
Sure,
to
sure.
Invictus. Meghan is typically with him. But what do you believe when it comes to the reports that Meghan has one demand and one demand only, and it's that Ravik switches their tune and Harry and Meghan and their family receive automatic armed guards whenever they step foot in the UK?
Well, we're expecting Harry to come over to the UK in a week or so anyway, because he's got a court case that he's fighting over here. But the big one is in July. Now, Ravik has not yet met, so we don't know what their decision is. There have been leaks some places. It says they're going to give him his security back and whatever else, and we then get the situation of the possibility of Meghan coming back. Now, let me say, as I discussed with you a few seconds ago about who is saying this. Now, it is my former paper, The Sun, and a very good reporter, Matt Wilkinson, who is very well known, very well placed,
Handsome, looks like
and
Prince William's brother
okay,
if
let's
he
not
had a
let's
head
not go
full of hair.
let's not go too far. But he's very well placed and has some good contacts elsewhere. Now, even when he was saying it all depends on the Ravik decision. I personally do not believe that Meghan will come back to this country. I may well be wrong. I
I
may
don't
well,
either. I agree with you.
I may well, but I've got this thing is that even if Ravik say you can have your protection back, you can have a bodyguard in your bathroom and everything else, all that sort of stuff, I believe that Meghan would find another reason not to come. And it's interesting that no one has mentioned the children.
Right.
You would have thought that if it was a real possibility of Meghan coming back, then somewhere what that would be an ideal opportunity, for them to bring the children over. And who should they see but their grandfather, who hasn't seen them for the best part of 3 or 4 years.
Who they
Um,
probably don't even know.
well, I'm sure they do because I'm sure, Meghan and Harry will have explained that Granddad is the King of England and all that, and you are Prince and Princess and everything else.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
my dad told me I was a princess too, Charles. Okay.
yeah, but you don't have that royal title, Kinsey. You don't
I,
actually have your title. You,
that's
you
true.
just,
And Lily
you just
Lily
look.
probably shouldn't have it either, if we're being honest.
You just look like a princess, but
Oh,
that's
thank you.
fine. Um, so I'm doubtful. I'm doubtful that she will set foot in this country. Yeah, if she does, then great. But you've got to remember as well, she's not going to be a popular girl when she steps on if she steps onto this, the UK soil.
No.
There's a lot of people still very, very upset with her, more so than they are with Harry.
Hmm.
So any sort of hope that she's got of getting, a great reception wherever she goes. I'm assuming if she does come, she's only going to go to the Invictus thing, so that'll
Yeah.
be in a closed area. But I suspect that she wouldn't be. You just got to look at the internet when if she ever comes here, to look at the internet and see what reception she gets. I don't
Well,
think it's going to be.
that's why she hates the internet. But you know what I think so frustrating about that story is if Meghan were to travel to the UK under the current RAVIC protocol, which requires 30 days notice to assess
Hmm.
threat levels, I am confident that both Harry and Meghan would be provided with armed security for an Invictus appearance. If it were just Meghan that were to show up, I think she would be given that security. If it's just Harry, I'm 100% sure he'd be given that security. I think that the recent surge of headlines suggesting that Meghan will only return if RAVIC reverses its original ruling and grants automatic security, to me, that appears to be an attempt to influence the committee's latest threat assessment.
Oh, I agree. Oh, I
Okay,
agree.
that's
So I,
interesting
to,
that you think so too.
totally agree that it, her people coming out and saying that because I think it originally came from them that they were suggesting that Ravik had already made the decision when we know that they hadn't actually met yet, and they still haven't yet met. So, I mean that meeting is going to come very, very shortly. Um, but let's not forget as well that if when Harry has been here, right, he's had motorcycle escort all the way from Heathrow into central London, and then they've left, and he's got his own protection. He has royal protection if he is with other members of the royal family because he is in that royal protection bubble. So, you know, he hasn't got a permanent gun guard paid for by me and everyone else in this country. And I don't want him to have it because I think it should only be for working royals.
Well,
And other
I kind of forget this, but one of the last times he was there, he did not have the level of security that he wanted. It was a very brief trip, but he was late everywhere he went because he had to sit in traffic. And a part of me feels like the
Sure.
hostility we see is
Yeah.
Harry just so frustrated that he doesn't have those escorts that he prefers. But you and I know 9 times out of 10, he gets that armed security. He just has to be upfront with Ravik and tell them exactly what his plans are. And I don't think he likes feeling like he
I don't think
owes somebody an
you're right.
explanation.
Yeah, he doesn't like telling them. He doesn't like telling the Met Police what to. And of course, with this situation where at the moment he's got to give this 30 days notice, that gives the Met Police time to look at their intel of any threats and everything else. And they keep using this woman stalker scenario. There's
This
some sort of
fan
woman,
that loves
this
him.
fan that loves him entirely and who was blocked by his bodyguard. But that's why bodyguards are there.
Yeah.
Whether you're an armed bodyguard or an unarmed bodyguard, that's your job is to protect the principal from being um, attacked or, meeting someone that they don't really want to meet. So this was not a crazed stalker. This was a big fan. I mean,
Right.
maybe that's the same thing, crazed stalker and big fan.
Well, I noticed at Sandringham how sweetly the working members of the British royal family recognized people and acknowledged them. I mean, I remember Catherine saying, "Oh, I always see you," and Prince William and King Charles complimenting this guy that wears beanies with a bunch of buttons on them. And I've seen that individual appear at multiple engagements where you can see Prince William. So there are people that are incredibly passionate. I'm not giving them permission to follow or stalk, but there are people that are incredibly passionate and want to show their support to members of the British royal family. Harry, it's not a unique situation, but
No,
these are the consequences of your actions. You were specifically told
sure.
that you would lose this when you were negotiating at the Sandringham summit exactly what the pros and cons were to you stepping down as a working member of the royal family. And so it's hard for me to feel sympathetic when I know that this was something that they were warned about.
Yes, well, there is no sympathy for them. I mean, there was five options ranging from half in, half out, round down to, completely you're not a working member of the royal family. I mean, the other members of the royal family, particularly the Queen, did not want them to be in, half out. I mean, she didn't see how that could possibly work, and I don't think anybody could see how it possibly was. But they wanted to try and get the best of both worlds, and it's failed. And just on one point about what you just mentioned at Sandringham, wasn't it great to see at Sandringham, how uh, tactile Princess Charlotte was with members of the public who kept calling her over to have pictures taken with her, to hand her presents and everything. Particularly Charlotte. I know the other two lads, they got presents and everything else. But it
Louis
was
and with his chocolate the
really,
size of his head.
yeah, but yes, it was. But really, really nice to see those three children, being really polite to those people who'd been standing in the cold, possibly snow and rain for hours and hours before the royals came down. It was
Mm.
really nice to see.
It is. It's and there is video of Prince William admiring Catherine, engaging with people too, and he's got this grin across his face. It just melts your heart. Well, let's go back to things that melt our brains, and that is the Sussexes, the Sussex Royal Foundation. We're talking about the Sandringham Summit. We're talking about Megxit, and the Sussex Royal Foundation is something that I believe Harry and Meghan tried to set up under the radar along with that website that they erected behind the royal family's back. And the royal family swiftly came down and said, no, you can't be Sussex Royal. You can't trademark royal. You can't throw things on, tea towels. And that's just not the way that this goes. So the Sussex Royal Foundation, we're going to have to pour one out for the homies because that didn't have a very long life as well.
No, it didn't last all that long, and for exactly the same reasons as you've explained quite well, that the royal family themselves saw that as a way of them using their royal links to make money as such. I mean, it could be a bit tacky with if they were going to do details. I'm not suggesting that they were, but they wanted a reason to have Sussex Royal in that name for their own benefit, and
Right.
it was they've tried various ways to get round this scenario of not using their HRH titles, not
I'm
using.
Megan Sussex now.
Yeah, Megan Sussex now. Yeah, well, which in fact, that's exactly what she is. It's one of the annoying things that annoys me intensely with people still call Catherine Middleton. She's not. She's Catherine Wales, and it annoys me as well
Well,
when
I'm going to call her Meghan Markle because I know
I'm sure
she
you
hates
are, but it
it.
doesn't. I do. I think we should call her Megan Sussex because that's what she is. She's a married
Uh,
married to Mr. Sussex or Prince Sussex, whatever you want to call him. So. And I think that's the right way of dealing with it. But
Well, we finally found something we disagree with,
yeah,
and that's
well,
okay. That's okay. Let's talk about Meghan's 40 by 40 initiative. Do you remember this? This
I
was
think
for her birthday. She did a
yeah,
Zoom
birthday,
call
birthday,
with an
birthday.
actress. Yeah. And the idea was that Meghan had a bunch of high profile friends that were going to mentor women for 40 minutes. This, blink and you'll miss it. No one brings it up anymore. Melissa McCarthy is still very kind and gracious about Meghan when she's asked about her on a red carpet, which the poor woman is. But this to me is a complete definition of who these people are. Like you said, vanity. Meghan gets to be with a celebrity on a video, and everybody's talking about her, but don't follow up or try to hold her accountable because it's pretty likely that she's dropped the ball.
Because we don't really know if she actually managed to get 40 celebrities to
Yeah.
spend 40 minutes with anyone at all. We know, yeah, we know about Melissa McCarthy and maybe a couple of others. But again, it's another project that's, well, it can only have lasted while she was 40.
Yeah.
She's now 44, so you can't have 44 minutes, can you, with and increase the number of celebrities by four. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that she probably was using to try and catch the headlines again. And, it's died, as far as I can see, it's died a natural death.
It's actually kind of embarrassing if you go back and watch the video. Have you done that lately?
Well, not lately. I mean, I
Yeah.
watched it when it first came out, but I mean, I tend not to have repeats of Meghan, to be perfect,
Unfortunately, it's in my job description, but when
to be perfectly
I
honest.
watch it today and I do see two people because Harry's, kind of the Joker in the background. You do see two people that are just really lost and trying to find their way. And I don't know if there's been any improvement there. I mean,
No,
maybe with as ever, but Harry still seems lost.
yeah, I'm afraid he is, and I can't criticize Harry enough for the charity works that he does. When he does the Invictus games, when he does Well Child, and when he does a couple of the other things that he does them very, very well. And it's interesting that when he's over here doing those things, he seems like another person. I mean, he's all smiles, he's very happy. I mean, the occasion will help lift his spirits as well. But the one that maybe depresses his spirits isn't there. So maybe that's, it's just the way things are. But when you see him, I mean, he recently did an interview on television. They both did an interview on television, and he looked haggard, to be perfectly honest. He looked very haggard, and she was all smiles and everything else, and she seemed to be taking the lead in everything.
That's interesting. In the same zone, let's talk about the Spotify podcast deal because we know Spotify was disappointed with the results. I think it took ultimately 3 years for Archetypes to come to fruition. The first year that they had signed the contract, they released a very bizarre holiday special with Tyler Perry and Elton John and Brene Brown and some of their celebrity friends. And Archie says something on it. But you wondered, oh, is this setting the tone? This is odd because in the initial contract signing, they promised that they were going to elevate regular people doing incredible things in their community. And I remember saying, no, they're not. They're going to talk to celebrities. And then they launch Archetypes for Meghan, where she talked to Paris Hilton and Mariah Carey and celebrities. But there have been all these stories that have circulated that Harry and Meghan have never shut down about the difficulty, in finding something for Harry to do. They at one point, Spotify even pitched him a hot chocolate podcast where he would sit down with friends and judge hot chocolates. He had pitched one about leaders and their
Oh
fathers,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He
talking to
wanted,
Putin, talking to Trump.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. Bill Simmons, who is an executive at Spotify, wouldn't have said what he said, calling them, what, grifters, if everything had ended as amicably as they tried to tell us that it did.
That's true.
And then Vanity Fair's American Hustle article about how former Spotify employees or people connected to the podcast needed therapy. This was just not a good look reputationally. Do you agree?
Yes, I do, and it wasn't a good look reputationally, at all. Um, I mean, they only seem to want to focus on celebrities because if you get a big A-lister, Hollywood A-lister, whatever, that helps promote whatever it is you are promoting, even though you yourself are supposedly an A-lister, you know. So you've got these two A-listers chatting away about various things. I'm very glad that Harry didn't do any hot chocolate scenarios because I mean I just think that would have bombed like you wouldn't believe. But you see, the thing about the royals in the UK is yes, they do meet celebrities, but they spend a lot more time with normal people,
Yeah.
helping the causes that they are involved in. Right. So it's not about me all the time. It's about the people you are meeting. Uh,
Yes.
and I think Harry and particularly Meghan have forgotten about sort of, Joe Bloggs, down the street who's down on his luck and everything else.
I
Uh,
think that I don't know if there was a conflict of interest here, but I think where they could have gone down that path and still garnered a lot of attention if there would have been a visual element to Meghan's podcasts, but there wasn't. But, if you think about how, when we talk about the Princess of Wales, we say Catherine showed up in a red suit and Catherine's hair was curly. Catherine looked gorgeous. And but you know what? NHS still gets their shout out, and we know exactly what they were there to
sure,
discuss.
sure. Yeah, yeah.
So
I
maybe
mean,
if
that's the
there was a
point.
visual element to the podcast, it would have had more success. But I don't know if there was a conflict of interest there because they'd also signed a deal with Netflix, and Netflix might have said, sure, you can sign the deal with Spotify, but you can't do anything visual with Spotify because you're supposed to be making content for us.
Yeah, that's yeah, that is possible. But whatever happened, that's died a death again.
Yeah. And
Same.
and that's our to our next point, Archetypes. It's gone. And she promised when she left Spotify that Archetypes was going to continue to have a life beyond Spotify in a very defiant statement, saying that, Archetypes was going to come back in some way, shape, or form. And it has yet to. I'll skip really quickly to Confessions of a Female Founder, which appears to be dead on arrival as well. Did not chart in any way, shape, or form as successfully as some of the Archetypes episodes had. She moved over to Limonada. Limonada, I believe, recently sold. So I don't know if that's, there's just some reconstruction happening within the
Reorganization.
organization.
Possible.
Do you think it could come back, or do you think that this is another abandoned project by
I,
Meghan, this
I
Confessions of a Female
I
Founder?
I don't think Archetypes is coming
Well, no,
back.
Confessions of I think Archetypes is dead, but what about Confessions of a Female Founder, her second podcast series?
I don't know how well it did, to
It
be
did
perfect.
not do sleeping apps that were just white noise to help you sleep, charted higher than Confessions of a Female Founder.
Well, I think you've answered the question yourself, actually, kids. There doesn't seem to be much, heart for anybody to watch this sort of stuff,
Yeah.
really. I mean, with all these things that they've done, they haven't yet found the one thing, the golden job that will help promote, not only promote them, which I don't object to, but give them a purpose in life. And their purpose in life should be doing what the royals do in the UK, and that is helping other people who are less fortunate than themselves, as well as they can still make their own money because they've got this Netflix deal, which is, mega money as far as I'm concerned. But, they just don't seem to have a purpose in life anymore.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Netflix deal. There have been two projects that have been announced that haven't come to fruition. Three, if, there's also a new wedding story that's been announced, but I'm going to give that some time because that was just announced. But Meet Me at the Lake has yet to come to fruition. And Pearl, Meghan's animated series, was just straight up canceled. They were like, we don't want to invest the time in this. We don't see that there's going to be a return on investment here. So it's interesting that Netflix appears to still be interested in working with Harry and Meghan in some capacity, although there's no denying that that first series where they accused the royal family of racism through experts was a commercial success for
Sure,
Netflix.
sure. I mean, it was. I mean, it was, it went round the world. It was played over and over and still is played today, whenever they want to do, whenever something wants to be done about it, we still see it again. It was heavily, I mean, it was a commercial success, there's no doubt about it, but it was also heavily criticized for its content and
Right.
for the fact that Oprah Winfrey did not, pick up on some of the things that particularly Meghan was saying, like getting married 3 days before the actual royal wedding. I mean, I fell off my chair when I heard that. And I was just wondering,
Well,
well,
if I'm Netflix or Spotify, I'm livid that Meghan and Harry do the Oprah Winfrey interview because that's a conflict of interest to me. Meghan said way more in the Oprah Winfrey interview
sure,
eh, negatively about the royal family than she did in the Netflix series. In fact,
sure.
she says in the Netflix series, I was offended that people didn't focus on my mental health. And the takeaway wasn't my mental health. The takeaway was these racism allegations.
Hmm.
Um, so if I totally understood Spotify going, it's taken forever. You're not really doing the stuff we want you to do. We're going to cut bait and run. Whereas Netflix, they got a little bit out of them, but is the return on investment there? We saw how much product as ever currently has available in stock. Netflix is allegedly a partner. What's your take on With Love Meghan while we continue to while we close
Well,
out the Netflix conversation? I don't think this is something she wants to quit. I think that they're quitting her in this scenario.
I'm not sure. I mean, Netflix must still believe that they have a product, i.e., Harry and Meghan being the product. They still believe that that product can produce some stuff to help them make money as well. Now, when we talk about this in effect shop of hers, all these products that she's got, if you looked at the figures, and we can't actually pin down the figures, so it's very much not knowing how much stock she's got and how much sales she's got because of the stocks that she's got. There is an argument that says, well, they've sold about 800,000 products, which in any man's language is good deal for them. But we don't know that for definite. That's the problem with it. We don't actually have any proper figures. So I mean, I think that will continue as long as Netflix are getting a return. And
Do you think
they're
the TV show will continue or just as ever will continue? Because
well,
Was hesitant to commit to that when she talked to Fortune's most powerful women. She said that they were going to experiment in creating digital short form content, which doesn't, that's not really Netflix's wheelhouse. To me, that in my uh, previous digital marketing ear, I heard we're going to pivot to social media. And if you watch that show, it's 45 minutes of what could be 45, 60-second videos with these
sure.
projects back to back. She doesn't need to. There's no real informal, deep, juicy conversations happening between the people on set. And, she's just doing these cute little DIY things that we watch on TikTok all day long anyway.
Well, as I say, I think Netflix will stick with them for as long as they are getting a fair share of money out of them.
Mm.
Uh,
What do you think about the rumors that Netflix stays committed to them in case, specifically Meghan, because Harry's kind of out of the picture now, where it's the more the Meghan show, that Netflix lingers in case of a divorce, that they want the Meghan scoop, they want the exclusive.
well, I hadn't heard that, Kinsey. You know,
Hello, welcome to this conspiracy zone.
I'm not a big conspiracy theorist in any shape or form, and we have heard in the past various people saying, "Oh, this marriage is not going to last at all," and I think that can be quite cruel, to be perfectly honest. There are no signs at all, from what I can gather.
It doesn't
Uh,
surprise you that Vanity Fair would publish that there were reports that someone from Meghan's team was shopping a post Harry divorce book. That like Vanity Fair has some pretty mean attorneys. I would
yeah.
suspect if they didn't have the sources to back it up, their attorneys would
Oh,
say, get rid of that immediately.
that is true, but there's a lot more unreliable stuff out there that says there's going to be a divorce. I mean, they've been going for quite a while now. So, Or maybe I'm just an old romantic. Best of luck
You
to
are
them.
such a romantic. I'm
Well, I
gonna
mean,
Photoshop a rose between your teeth when
I
this.
don't want to. I don't. I don't want to see. I don't want to see anybody's
Well, you
personal.
lived through the Diana and Charles divorce, and you know how hard that was on
Sure.
Harry, and you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that
Oh,
how
yeah.
traumatic that was for him.
But let's not forget it was hard on William as well.
Very much.
He just dealt with it a lot better.
Mhm.
You know?
Absolutely. It
And
was
Harry.
him pushing the tissues underneath the bathroom door, hearing his
Oh
mom,
God.
poor William. I mean, he really was probably unfairly her shoulder to cry on throughout
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that
No, no.
episode.
He was. He
Uh,
was.
as we wrap this up, did you have anything else to say about Sentebale? Because Sentebale, this Harry quitting Sentebale and the way that he quit Sentebale, if there was something that happened here that was ugly in a similar fashion to Sentebale, they did not want to relive that PR nightmare.
No.
So I can see them trying to handle things differently, and potentially that could be the case we're seeing here with the parent network.
Yeah, and but the problem with Sentebale now is that because they do not have a link with Harry and Prince Zuzu, but particularly Harry, then their chances of survival diminish, to be perfectly honest. They've done an awful lot of work. They were getting quite a bit of money in with the polo matches and various other things that Harry would attend. You know, I remember the days when Diana used to come to the States and it was $10,000 a plate in, the scenario, just to be in the same room as her, behind a pillar. As
Mm-hmm.
you got closer to Diana, that price went up you know. So it's the same with all these organizations that have some sort of royal patron. Once the royal patron drops out or goes away for whatever reason, then that charity itself suffers financially. We saw it with landmines when Diana was the cornerstone of the landmines, and when she died, they brought in I think they brought in a footballer, a French footballer, David Ginola, as the lead head of it. It doesn't have the same impact as Diana. They also brought in Queen Noor of Jordan at that time. Again, just not the same. There's not the same uh, impact that a royal can do. Now, if you don't have the royal, and I can't see Harry ever going back to Sentebale, there's too much trouble going under the scheme under the river now.
Based on previous tax forms, Harry and Meghan logged an average of 1 hour a week, 1 hour per week for the Archewell Foundation. That's multiple tax forms they turned in. Do you look at this and go, maybe that they don't have the work ethic to manage a foundation? Maybe that's why it's pivoted to philanthropies. Maybe they don't have the right people around them that can help them through something
That
like this.
that is possible. That is possible. I mean, they're losing people hand over fist all over the place. It's. I don't understand why these people turn up and leave. We don't seem to be getting an awful lot
They
of good.
they sign very aggressive
Oh, sure,
NDAs.
sure. No, no,
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. I'm
I
sure.
had
I'm sure.
one friend that recently worked with one of the men that left them not too long ago, and he said the way that he was, they were actually doing something for Archewell. They were very chatty on the phone. They had a great relationship. He said the way that guy shut up and completely changed the way he engaged after the fallout with Harry and Meghan, he said, was unbelievable, that he seemed frightened to talk.
And that's right. I mean, and let's not forget as well, we've still got on the table these allegations of bullying that allegedly Meghan made when she was at Buckingham Palace.
Mm-hmm.
Which have never the inquiry has never been revealed. So we still don't know if it was a true allegation or whether it was not a true allegation. But if it were true and she's carrying on in the same way, or Harry's carrying on in the same way, then I'm not surprised that people are leaving. I mean, there must be reasons as to why they're leaving. And you're right, they're doing the NDA, so they're not telling anybody, what's going on. So I think it's a difficult question. It's a difficult answer for them to get the right people in who can juggle the various projects that they've got going, and trying to come up with better ideas to serve their Netflix master.
Final question. Is it easier to quit when you don't really stand for anything, when there is no substance? Because our Archewell's slogan is show up, do good. It's like just vague enough to where if you don't show up and don't do good, nobody will notice because it's so vague. It just feels like you said they have their hands in a lot of cookie jars. And we don't know, whereas we could say Prince William, he's very passionate about the environment. He wants to end homelessness. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, she wants to talk to you about the first 5 years that your baby's on the planet. We know exactly what their anchors are, to steal a Meghan Markle word, an anchor. And with Harry and Meghan, they are all over the place.
And this brings us back to how we started off this conversation. That project of their parents' network seemed on paper and everything else seemed to be a great idea because it was helping normal parents who felt that their children were being swept away by the internet, many of whom unfortunately had committed suicide. So they were actually doing some positive good with it. And that's what surprises me. You've got this actual project, which is a real great thing for them to do for the people rather than for themselves. And them as the figureheads would have made it grow bigger and bigger. So it's inexplicable as to why they've given it away. And yeah, it is easier to quit when you haven't got that investment, personal investment in it.
All right, agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. And, Charles's wife reads the comments. So can you stop talking about how handsome he is? And we need you to stop with the marriage proposals. We appreciate them, but he's a taken man. Agree with us, disagree with us. Let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. What a pleasure it is to spend time with you.
And you, it is always a pleasure to spend time with you, Kinsey.
I hope I get to see you again so soon. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.